I got a million of these responses. What about aliens? What about aliens? Couldn't aliens have made a colder place than we have? Here's why, from a scientific standpoint, that is a nothing statement. We all gather around to a local bakery because they have set a new record. They have baked the world's biggest loaf of bread. And everyone's like, oh, wow, that's really cool. You baked a huge loaf of bread. And then you come in and say, well, isn't it possible that someone else made a bigger loaf of bread? And we're like, well, we don't have a bigger loaf of bread on record. And you're like, but bread making has existed since the beginning of human civilization, and there have been so many humans. Surely one that we didn't see made a bigger loaf of bread. And we're like, yeah, okay, maybe, but we don't have one on record. And you're like, how arrogant to say that you baked the biggest loaf of bread when there are so many other people who could have baked a bigger loaf of bread. And then we all fucking ignore you. Because it doesn't actually matter if someone that no one knows, never will know, and never interacted with baked a bigger loaf of bread in the past. That's like describing a bread ghost. It exists in theory, but in no practical way is observable or affects us. That is what these hypothetical aliens are. There is no scientific evidence for them whatsoever, so whether or not they exist doesn't matter. That's not saying that they don't exist, it's saying that it doesn't matter if they exist or not. At the point in which they become a factor in our lives, a factor in our science, then it can matter. But until then, it doesn't matter, and in fact, it can't matter in terms of scientific reasoning. Because if it did matter, you could use that argument for anything. Force equals mass times acceleration. But what if there was an alien race that proved that it didn't? Well, the universe is symmetrical, so our laws here should be our laws elsewhere. But what if there was an alien race that proved that it didn't? And I did another video on quantum symmetry if you want to know more about that. We have found what we believe to be the biggest black hole, but what if there was a bigger black hole discovered by an alien civilization out there somewhere beyond the observable universe? You can say, but what if an alien did it better to literally any scientific principle? That's what makes it a nothing statement. That's why science doesn't care about it. We only care about what is observable, what is reasonable, and what is testable. So could there be an alien species out there that got to lower temperatures? Sure. There could be an alien species out there that baked the biggest loaf of bread. But honestly, until that alien race brings its ultra-low temperature space bread here to Earth, we just don't care. And until that happens, it's a pretty safe assumption to say that we baked the biggest loaf of ultra-low temperature space bread. Because scientifically that makes a whole lot more sense than saying maybe there are alien bread ghosts out there.